Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pearl Perspectives, another episode of Pearls of Wisdom. Today, on the pretty much almost eve of our first anniversary, we wanted to talk to you about a year of socks. A year of socks. What it's like to make a lot of them, what it's like to not make a lot of them, lessons that we've learned, challenges that we've faced, what's keeping us from making them, what's inducing us to making them, and any kinds of milestones or goalposts that we have going forward. Because you see a lot of socks on our podcast, and so we thought it's time to talk about it.
It's time to talk about it, and also just spoiler alert, this is not going to be a tutorial on how to knit socks.
No.
This is going to be what we, like, our feelings towards knitting socks.
Yep.
And just FYI, the three of us have very different positions.
Which is probably what makes this work well.
Exactly. So, what did you start us off, Allie? You participated in this challenge.
Yes.
How did that go for you?
So, last year, in the year of 2024, I received a subscription sock set from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers dye studio based in Montana, wherein I received a main skein of yarn and a mini skein of contrast color every month for the full year. And as a result, I challenged myself as part of this subscription set to knit a pair of socks with the yarn I received each month. Now, I started off strong in January, February, March. I was like, yeah, we're doing this. We're getting the socks. We're knitting them quickly. I had done an experiment a few years ago where I determined it takes me about 22 hours to knit a full pair of socks in my size.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
with that knowledge, I knew that I could do it in a month. And at first it was great. I was motivated, I was happy, I was excited. It was like itching something in my brain when I'd finish them, and it would be before the end of the month. But as the year wore on and I started to have other things that I wanted to make or other things in my life come up, it started to become a little bit harder and harder every month to feel motivated to finish them and to find a pattern that really made me want to only work on them. And by the end of the year, it was getting stressful emotionally because I had committed to this thing. I wanted to see it through, but I also had other things to do, other things on my plate, and I just didn't want to have to think about complicated patterns or anything like that, because I had also given myself a secondary challenge of only knitting patterns that had less than 50 completed projects on Ravelry. So that meant, and because I also wanted to use both colors in the sock set, that I ended up doing things like, so these are 3 examples of them. This was January, the Peachy Keen set, sock set by Autumn Poppy Designs, I think. They'll all be listed down below. So I had to think about lace, and I had to think about color work. In January, my brain was there. These, I think, were March or April, if I remember correctly. This was a quilted stitch that I had no idea how to do, and there's a ribbing over the top of the sock, which once I got into the groove was fine, but I had to sit down and do this when I had the brain space to concentrate. After that, I could fly. It was fine. By the end of the year, I was picking projects similar to these. These were the Kigi socks.
Mostly stockinette.
Mostly stockinette. I'm blanking on the name. Again, they'll be posted down below. Is
it the Nordic House?
Yeah,
maybe?
Nordic House.
Something like that. These were in the summer. I knew I had enough brain space to do a colorwork chart, which I think I did on one of them at knit night, and then the rest was just stockinette because I couldn't commit to doing something more complicated as the year went on because I just didn't have the mental capacity to be thinking about colorwork and texture and everything else at the same time. So I had to adjust how I was doing my year of socks, which took the joy out of it because I freaking love knitting socks. So by the end of the year,
I think it's safe to say
it was just vanillas.
I think it's safe to say that you aren't going to participate in such a challenge again.
No, I wouldn't. Putting the pressure on myself for 1 month is one thing. Putting the pressure on myself to knit a pair of socks every month for a year was another, because I didn't just knit the socks that came as part of the subscription. I also, this was a skein that I got from the Creative Knitter? No, the Cozy Knitter for the Advent, wherein you knit 1 color stripe per day for the month of December for the Advent season. So in addition to doing the December socks for this challenge, I was also doing this, and then I was knitting whatever else in between that I wanted to. So I actually ended up knitting I knit 18 pairs of socks last year, which to me was too many.
It sounds like too many.
Too many.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Did you, like, was there anything positive that came out of it? Did you improve your skills? Did you learn something about yourself that you're using now?
Yes. So I definitely... Where's that other one?
She literally
No, I don't
brought a
there's a bucket
of
There's a
socks.
bucket of socks.
It's an actual bucket.
It's an actual bucket. I got it from the dollar store.
It's sock bucket.
So I did.
I love it.
I've learned some new skills. Number one, I've learned how to do Latvian braid,
Ooh.
which we can see here.
Those are so pretty.
These
Hold
need
them
to
a
be
little closer.
these need to be washed. Pardon my grotty soles. But this right here is Latvian braid. So this is just basically what you do is you purl a row, but you carry the yarn in front strategically, color over color, to create that braid look. There's some really great YouTube videos out there.
And it kind of looks, it looks a little bit like a sideways cable, but it's not.
Exactly,
Yeah,
it's
it
not.
does.
So you
It's
you
really
purl a
nice.
row and pull the yarn in front, and then I think you just knit a row, and then you purl another row, pulling the yarn in front, but in the opposite direction. And it's one by one color work, really.
And the quilted stitch was also a new technique for you.
This one was also a new technique for me. This was a series of slipped stitches that you did to where you you slipped a stitch, and then a few rows later you lifted it up and over the active stitch on your needle. So that was new. That took a couple of tries for me to go. I also learned about tension in textured knitting like this, because the first size I cast on, I couldn't even get over my toes. I had to rip it out entirely and do it again. So that was a good learning experience. Another thing I learned was with this sock. So this doesn't look like much. It's stripes. It's got some purl bumps in there to create texture, but the pattern is actually written toe up.
Uh-huh.
I knit them cuff down.
Intentionally?
I don't like knitting toe up socks. I don't know what my numbers are.
So
my
is the texture design upside down now? Technically?
Yes.
Or did you reverse it?
Well, luckily, because it's a chart that goes like this,
doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. But essentially, I looked at the chart and I just said, you know what? Let's just turn the chart upside down and then work from the bottom up of the chart.
Sure.
And then that way I could substitute in my preferred cuff, my preferred heel, and then already the numbers that I know of the foot. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. That was something that I tried for the first time, hacking a pattern, and it worked.
I mean, it sounds like you ended up becoming a better sock knitter at the end of it. But,
I did.
But do you think the cost?
I feel a little burnt out of socks, I'm not going to lie, which makes me sad because I love knitting them.
Yeah.
And they're so much fun to work on when I'm in transit. So I take public transit every single day to and from work, and that is an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. You can get a lot of stitches in. And so socks, because they're so small, are so portable, it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to, which is fine. Now I just read on the bus. But it's
Sure.
like...
Oh God, I wish.
but I want to be knitting socks on the bus. So I feel a little burnt out. I'm going to take a little break from socks, I think. Maybe knit a sweater or two, finish up some whips, and then come back to it. So don't push yourself to try to get through these kinds of challenges. Because if you get to... I should have stopped in October, November. I was feeling at that point where I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, but I'm so close to being done.
That's really interesting to me that you say October, November, because you said you made 18 pairs.
Mm-hmm.
And if the challenge was one pair a month,
Yep.
and you
Then
wanted
you
to
did
stop
more.
at 9, you wanted to stop at 10, you made double the amount of socks that
Yeah.
you wanted to make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because earlier in the year, I also, say for example, these ones. These were my January ones. I think I got the yarn on January 9th or 10th, and I needed to have them finished before the end of the month. So for that first week in January, well, I needed another sock on my needles for when I was in transit.
Yeah.
So I started a scrappy pair, which when I finished these before the end of January and I had a week left before the next yarn came, I kept working on those. So I was never not knitting on socks, which I think was my problem. I should have finished my monthly challenge, and then I should have put the socks down
Until the next month.
until the next
Yeah.
month came, and my transit knitting should have been something else. A muscle bra,
Yeah.
the body of a sweater,
Yeah.
a cowl, a hat, I don't know. But it should not have been socks.
Karin, do you knit socks?
Socks and me have a
Complicated relationship.
complicated relationship.
I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
I have knitted socks before. But I've literally just knit 3 patterns. One of them was fingering. One of them was, I think, sport or DK, and one of them was extra bulky.
Okay.
So my experience with knitting socks has been a bit weird because the one time I did, like when I first started my sock journey with the really extra bulky ones, it was a gift that I wanted to give to a few people. So it was a very simple cable pattern. I liked it, and it was very fast to do. So I think I knitted like 6 pairs in probably a month and a half.
Oh,
whoa,
that's a compressed timeline.
That's a pair
and
a
it was
week.
really like
Yeah.
it was that fast. It's extra bulky. Like there's it's literally
Still.
like 10 rows, 20 rows, you're done. Like it was very fast. But I got a little jaded because one person I gave the socks to was definitely not knit worthy. I did not know back then. It was my first time giving them a gift. They had asked for a pair, and I gave it, and the reaction was very much not what I expected. So it kind of, I think that experience stuck with me, and it kind of threw me off of knitting socks for a little bit, which is weird. It shouldn't, because socks are not necessarily made for, you don't have to gift them if you don't want to. But I never really intended to make some for myself in the first place. It was always, my first thought was always, it'll be gifts.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I walk everywhere. I walk on average 7 to 10 kilometers a day. So whatever sock I wear better be sturdy.
It has to stand up to
I
it.
have destroyed socks that are considered indestructible.
Okay.
by like commercial brands. They're like, oh yeah,
Impressive.
these socks get like no, there's holes in there. So
So you need a sports sock.
I need a sock. I need to, and this is because I'm very novice when it comes to socks. I still have to find like the fiber and the weight of yarn and maybe even the pattern that will fit and will last the longest for me. It doesn't mean that it'll last forever. I have no illusions about that. But if it could at least last a few months, it'd be nice. But yeah, so essentially, and I think the best way to do it would probably be to start with whatever I could wear in boots in the winter, I guess, because it's a bit easier to like work with heavier weights. But yeah, so right now my I think the best way would be for me to go for maybe even like socks that I can wear in the house.
Yeah.
But the thing is, see, I'm the opposite. Like you were talking about how you prefer to be barefoot.
Yeah.
I prefer to always have socks on. I'm one of those people that my extremities are always cold. My nose, my ears, so socks, like right now my feet are
Very cold.
Very cold. So if I don't wear socks, like it's just, it's not comfortable. So I do have a lot of, like, I love fuzzy socks. I love thick socks. I like that. This is why I tried the one pair that I kept for myself was the really like knee-high
Thigh-high,
socks.
Okay, so
And-
what it sounds like to me is that you have 2 very distinct needs
Yeah.
for socks.
Yeah.
One is your outside of the home life, where you need them to be extremely sturdy or and durable. They need to be comfy and they need to fit in your walking shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And indoors, you need super warm, super cozy house socks.
Literally, like a sock and a slipper had a baby. That's the sock I want. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's like in the sense that like that's the kind of vibe of
You know,
socks.
it's funny
I like.
because there's a pattern in here somewhere for exactly that.
I think what's really interesting about both of your experiences so
Oh
far.
yeah, there is. That's true. And I have this book. We all bought it together. It's a very good book.
The Elvis slippers. We'll come back to this in a
Yeah.
second from 52 Weeks of Socks. But there are patterns out there available for slipper socks.
What's
see,
what's
I
really
would
interesting
actually
about,
hack this because I want
What's
it
really
to be
interesting
higher.
about your experience both is that what I'm picking up is that you both have accidentally attributed negative emotions
Yes.
to handmade socks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that and for me it's also the fact that I've never been super interested in projects like socks or
Like
shawls
smaller
or
things, or-
I like sweaters. Like that's my favorite project to work on.
Garment knitter.
So
I don't think that's bad to just not be interested
well, that's
in
the
knitting
thing.
socks.
So, but at the same time, like, I want to, because it's such an easy
Yeah.
project to do when you're on the go. Like I'm the same as her. I have an hour of transit every day. Mind you, some of it is walking, so obviously I can't really. I mean, I can in the
You'll
the
get there.
summer.
You'll
I
get there.
can. I actually have my little bag thingy, and then I just knit on the go while I'm walking. But so I want to get better at it. I just don't know if like the motivation is there yet.
Trial
See
and
what I
error.
mean? Like,
What's-
and that's the thing. It's also a lot of. In my case, I would still have a lot of trial and error to figure out
And
the
you
right
want to
size,
skip that.
the right, yeah, kind of.
So what's your sock experience then?
I would say it's a middle of the road experience for me. I wouldn't consider myself an avid sock knitter, but I have made multiple pairs and I love wearing my handmade socks and also socks that have been handmade by other people like you. However, my problem with socks is that I'm very much a victim of second sock syndrome.
Which
I
is
think
fair.
I've said this on the pod before, but I'm a starter, not a finisher.
Yep.
I knit for the act of knitting
Yeah.
because I like sitting down or like being in a social encounter or for relaxation. I like to have something on my hands that I'm doing, and socks give me product knitting vibes, which when I cast some on, I start to feel guilty of not finishing them fast enough. So if you look at my whip wall, yes, I have a whip wall. It's right behind us.
It's right there.
Probably half of those were like knitting bags are one sock, 1.5 sock, half a sock, the cuffs of a sock. And I have tried knitting 2 at a time. I have tried knitting simultaneously. I have tried knitting just vanilla socks to see if they go quicker. I have tried dopamine socks, so like color work or something exciting like a texture or a cable. I lose steam in the middle of making a pair of socks.
Have you done the knitting 2 at a time?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just lose steam, and I think I've just worked myself up to start feeling guilty at cast on.
Do you think if you were to put all of your sock projects in one bag together, do you think that would motivate you more, or would that become an even bigger stumbling block?
I'm not sure, but here's a sock problem I've been having lately. I have not set up myself for success in terms of being able to act on my motivation when I feel it.
Okay.
Because while I do have multiple whip bags with sock projects in them, I have forgotten the stitch pattern. So
Yep.
when I get
you
that
have to-
itch, as in like, oh, I would really like to knit more on my socks right now, I pick them up and I get immediately discouraged because it's like, oh, it's the vervain that I never finished and I have to open the book and the book is not here and I forgot the page, and which I don't remember what row I was at and what was his lace. Anyway, I get like really discouraged because I would need to like do extra steps to actually set myself up to knit the sock.
Right.
So I need to correct that in terms of setting the whip bags actually in a better way so that I don't have that much of a hurdle to jump over when I want to start knitting on them again on
So-
my existing whips.
So, for example, for the vervain socks have a lace panel in the front of them. Would that mean then for you printing out a copy of the lace chart,
Of just the chart.
just the chart, having it, and then like maybe a paper clip or something along the side,
Yeah.
to at least give you like the 2 or 3 row area that you're in,
Yeah.
which you can then read on your stitches to be like, oh, I'm at this row.
On the other hand, I have had really good sock experiences, and I find knitting socks so rewarding that I actually want to teach other people to
Yeah.
knit socks. I remember I learned to knit socks together, with some of the knit night attendees when none of us had made socks before, and we were like, how hard could it be? So we just like started a sock along, and learning that was so rewarding, and it is a relatively quick project if you commit to it, which I find hard to do. But I've had really positive experiences knitting socks. I love it. I think it's like I said, rewarding and quick. You can add little bursts of texture or a technique that you haven't tried before that is very satisfying.
Yep.
But I've also had some duds. And so much like your experiences, once you finish something and you wear it or you put it out into the world and it's not what you needed, or it's not meeting your expectations, it's hard to come back
Yeah.
to it after that, because now there's this like soreness
In your heart.
in your heart, as in like the damn sock that took 6 months to finish and then I'm still not able to wear it. Like, but for example, one of the best experiences I've had with socks is this sock right here.
It's so cute.
Excuse that it's been so worn, but this is what I called my jet setter socks.
Yeah.
This sock took over a year or 2 years to
Yeah.
finish because it lived in my suitcase. Then I would only knit on it when I was on a plane or on a train.
On vacation somewhere.
On vacation somewhere, because it was my vacation commuting, like traveling sock. It was such an easy pattern to remember because it's just a 3x1 rib all the way down, and I had a sock set that fit perfectly with it. It's a heel flap and gusset construction that I'm used to and that I didn't have to think too much about. Same with the sock.
Yep.
It's just the
wedge toe?
the toe. It's just a wedge toe. There's no thinking on it. And so I found that it didn't matter if it had been 6 months since the last time I picked them up. I knew what to do when I had them.
And can I just say that when we were on vacation and you finished them, the look of sheer joy on your
Yeah.
face from the bed next to mine was so awe-inspiring. It was just great. You were so happy to be done them. There'd been like 4 countries that they'd been to.
And they fit so well. This
Yep.
is a Kate Atherley pattern, by the way. It's
Yep.
free. I think it's called the Trusty something. Anyway, it's just a nice ribbed sock. It's called a nice ribbed sock. And it fits perfectly. And I just couldn't believe how easy it was to pick it up without having to like do any mental exercise and workouts. On the other hand, I made this pair of socks. And I love them. These are from an indie designer in the UK. They're called the Oregano socks.
Yeah.
But look what happened. I wore a hole on both of the heels after being what I thought was careful. I only washed them by hand. I only wore them like a few hours at a time. But I made a critical mistake.
See one of these?
Yeah. I made a critical mistake in is that I chose a yarn that I thought was going to be luxurious and buttery, and it is. It just had a percentage of fiber here that is just not meant for hard wear.
Yeah.
So, in other words, I would never be able to wear those.
You
Because I can
would.
also see like under
The
the toe, there's a little bit of like
There's
thinness
thinning.
happening.
See it.
So I was so disappointed because these like all over cable socks are so beautiful,
so
and they
nice.
took me so long to make.
Look at the length
So
of
what
that
was
leg.
the fiber?
It was, I think it was 10%
Cashmere?
cashmere. It had BFL and it had something else.
And then the other one that you just showed, what was that fiber?
That'd be a merino.
This is a superwash merino nylon
okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
mix. So I felt really discouraged after making those socks because I only got like a handful of wears out of
Yeah,
them before
before.
Do you
they.
plan to mend them?
I do, but every time I think about it, I get overwhelmed and I don't. I don't have any more of the same yarn.
Yeah.
The dyer doesn't make the same colorway anymore in the base.
Yeah.
So I would have to do some like real mathing to replace the toe and replace the heel in
So
in
can
a
I-
contrasting sock
Can I,
color.
oop, there goes my phone. Can
So-
I offer you something for your consideration?
Sure.
Let me just dig through my bin of socks here. Okay, so there's this one, and it was this one. Where's the one with the hole? Okay, there is a sock in here with the hole. Here we go.
Okay.
So, this is a pair of socks that I knit for my sister. She has giant feet and beefy calves because she's an athlete. They don't fit on her leg. She can't get them over her heel because the texture goes all around, and so there's not enough
there's no stretch, yeah.
right? So what I need to do is I need to take out from the heel up and re-knit them, and then I can give them back to her. Now, what's my plan for that? I'm literally just going to cut right here, take these off, grab another scrap yarn, and knit the cuff up completely unmatching. I don't care. She doesn't care. Okay? That's
Okay.
my plan for these ones. This one, there's a hole in the toe of a colorwork sock that I have knit for myself. Pretty decent toe.
Yeah.
Pretty decent hole. What is my plan? Same thing. I'm just going to cut here, and I've done this for a pair of socks for my sister as well. I'm just going to cut below the hole, grab another scrap yarn, knit straight up. So what if they don't match?
Yeah,
They don't have to match.
that's fair.
They have to be usable. And to me, this kind of problem is a good problem to have because it indicates that the recipient actually wants to wear them.
That's
Yeah.
true
Actually
though, because
using
at
them.
the end of the day, like, it's under your feet as well, right? And
Yeah,
you're the one who's
yeah.
going to wear them.
That's true.
So you could very well just go for a completely different color or
Yeah.
something similar.
Yep.
So I guess some lessons that have come up for me as I've knit a few pairs of socks is, number one, I gotta start picking my patterns with more intention. Sometimes I feel like I pick a pattern just because it looks interesting,
Yep.
but I know myself now, and I know I'm not gonna knit the whole pair in one go.
Yep.
I'm gonna wanna set it down for a few months and then pick it up after. So if I'm selecting patterns that are way too complicated to onboard myself again on,
Yep.
it's very unlikely that I'm gonna knit them again. So that's number one. Number two, I have now learned what fiber combination works for me.
Yeah.
The last pair of socks that I finished are this one, and in this one I found the perfect yarn for it, and hilariously it was the least expensive ball of yarn.
It's is that Regia or like Schoppel or
It was
Opal?
Schroppel. It was
It's a commercially-
it's a commercial European brand
Yeah.
that had 70%, 30% nylon, and it's not superwash wool, it's a mixed wool.
Okay.
This fiber content worked great. It has the elasticity that I like, and I used a pattern with a heel that doesn't require me to pick up stitches, which
Yep.
is my least favorite
Like
part.
this one?
Exactly. Well, not similar. I think that's a Flegel heel.
Oh, cool.
This is
The integrated
this is
heel.
an integrated heel, which is increases and decreases
Yeah.
instead of that. So I've learned with this one that I can get addicted to knitting the sock and finish it quicker if I pick a pattern that is going to keep me engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of tiring me out.
Yeah.
So that's my in a nutshell what I need to do to continue my sock knitting practice.
So
I
do you
think-
thinking of that, if you were to pull all of your sock whips off the wall, would you feel comfortable frogging them all because they're not a pattern like this?
I need to take a good look at my pile of whips
Okay.
and make some decisions.
Yeah.
Some of them might not be the fiber that you want
Some
to
of
work
them might
with.
not be the fiber that I want to work with. Some of them, I can think of a couple right now where I've put way too luxurious yarn into it, and it's gonna go on my feet, and I'm gonna be disappointed again, and I don't want to go through.
I feel
that.
like luxurious should be more for...
I mean, and I use the word luxurious,
You know?
but really what I mean is delicate. It's a delicate
Yeah.
fiber that I really shouldn't be using for socks. That being said, though, it's my life and my money, and I can do with it what I want. So if it were to bring me more joy to wear that on my feet, regardless of whether or not
Yeah.
it wears holes on it, I would still do it.
I mean, I'd be willing to do a baby alpaca sock, but like it'd be the kind of sock that I wear in bed.
Yeah.
But that depends because not
done
everybody
that.
likes to wear socks in bed. I love
Yeah.
to have my feet really
I
toasty.
can't. I have to be barefoot.
I'm like it has to be
Same.
yeah. Otherwise,
Do you know, Allie, what would bring your sock joy back?
I think a little mini break until I'm yearning. Right? So recently, as I have stated in an earlier podcast, I spent the month of January only working on whips, not wanting to cast anything new on. And one of the whips that I've been working on, because I can almost finish it, is a pair of socks. And when I finish those, I'm not going to start any new socks. I'm going to give myself the month of February where I don't cast on any socks. I'm seeing patterns pop up where I'm like, oh, those are cute. Oh, I like those. Oh, should I
keep
test knit
them.
for this designer whom I love so dearly? Like I'm seeing things that are sparking joy, but not sparking the desire to pick up the needles.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to give myself the month of February to not knit socks.
To not have deadlines.
To not have deadlines. And then when that itch for more socks comes back, then I will be ready to go. That will be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to my brain this time, or listen to my heart, I should say, my gut.
Kenan, do you think you're gonna, and it's okay to say no, but like, do you think you will ever develop a craving for knitting socks or making socks?
Not so much a craving, but I do want to knit more socks. I think what will be, I don't want to say a game changer, but what will probably entice me to knit more socks is finding that right combination of the right yarn, the right pattern, and the right, because I'm still at the stage where I'm not 100% sure
What
the
works.
style of like heel that I want to make, or the style, like, or do I prefer, I'm pretty sure I prefer cuff to toe.
Yeah.
I don't really
Cuff down, yeah.
cuff down, but like there's still so many like unknowns, which the only way I'm gonna get over those is if I actually do knit socks, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like, but I think the biggest one will probably be to find like the fiber that works for me. So I'm probably gonna try what you did, which is like essentially super merino and nylon. I feel like that's a nice combination, if only to like get better at it.
Yeah.
And then I'll figure out if there's a fiber that's better or a blend that's better for like sturdier socks.
Yeah. I think there's a good segue for me to introduce for us to introduce a couple of books
Yes.
that we like about making socks, because you know what, you're right. We're starting to make socks.
It's not easy.
It could be two things, and I think it happened to all of us. You can either be like me and jump into it uninformed and excited and then be disappointed, or you can do all the necessary research and aim way too high and then get burnt out.
Yeah.
Like you did. So here's one book that I got recently that I've been using as reference and as inspiration, and it's served me really well. And it's The Sock Project by Summer Lee Designs. Summer Lee is a really prolific sock designer.
Yep.
I love everything that she puts out, and she made this book to essentially be like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, to
in
get you
terms of-
started.
to get you started. And she's included a lot of that detail that we wouldn't know about otherwise, unless you've made as many socks as Summer Lee has made. So she talks to you about durability, elasticity. She talks to you about fit and slouch, and you know, like the differences of what you have to adjust if you want to add lace or color work into a sock. And this book gives you like multiple types of cuffs, multiple types of designs, multiple types of heels and toes.
Yeah.
So you can pick and choose what you think you're gonna like and iterate.
This
Yeah.
is the technical foundation.
This is the
It's
technical
good.
foundation.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about like, oh, I hacked a sock because that's not the way I wanted to make it. If that's you, if you're stopping yourself from making a sock because you don't like the way the pattern was written or a certain feature
Yeah.
of the pattern, this is the book for you.
Yeah.
Because you can just refer to it and sort of plug in
Yep.
the technique for a different heel, a different toe, a different cuff, or construction.
And I would just like to take a second here and say one thing that Summer Lee does, not just on her podcast, but like when she's designing socks, which I think all of us should consider, is that she doesn't always knit the second one. She'll knit one, and then that's good enough. Because for her, sometimes that's just testing the color, or testing the shape, or testing the chart. And that's enough for her to decide yes or no, this works. And so she just knits one, which sometimes she will then put on display in her office. Sometimes she'll just use in photos. Sometimes she'll wear it mismatching with another one. However she wants to do it. But she doesn't require herself to knit the second one if the first one doesn't work.
I love that.
Oh my god,
So-
you know what? That would really work for me, because
Yeah.
I've been feeling guilty about not making that second sock.
And
Just don't.
mismatched socks are actually like
Super cute.
super cute.
It's like, I mean, look, I have these sock blockers that have a hook on them. How cool would a bunch of these on your wall look with socks on them?
with like you're either
As decoration.
Like, yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
great.
That'd be so fun.
That's
Right?
so smart. I love it.
Yeah.
I think this would actually help
okay, I'm
me.
feeling better.
Will actually like help me get into it. I think.
One of our good friends has also purchased this book and has become a sock knitter just from this book. The sock knitting was not a thing that they did a lot of, and now
Right.
they are making them left, right, and center
All
for
right, I'm gonna
themselves, for
think about
gifts,
buying it
whatever.
then.
It's a really great resource. Yeah.
Another awesome
then-
resource.
If you have the technical foundation but are looking for a little bit more inspiration in terms of patterns, can I interest you in Lina Publishing's 52 Weeks of Socks Volume 1 and Volume 2?
And boy, when we say elegance, we're not kidding.
yes.
Oh,
These
Jesus.
are amazing. So here, I'll give you that one. So Lina Publishing is incredible because not only are they like really supporting the knitwear community at all levels, but they have gone ahead and they've said, knitters, what do you want? You want a book of sock patterns?
We got you.
We got you.
Look at these beautiful ones.
I just love how like detailed
Look
and
at these
beautiful
ones.
and
Like,
delicate they
you
look.
have everything in here. And if I remember correctly, this
Some
is
of these also include slippers.
yes,
Right? Yeah, right there. Hilda.
There you go.
So it's not broken up in here, but I think if you there's a way, maybe it's online where it's broken down, but they've broken it down where they have texture, they have color work, they have slippers, they have DK weight, they have fingering weight, they have
they even
ones
have
with mohair, they've got
bejeweled
embellished ones here
Bejeweled
in volume
ones.
2. They
Wait.
have
this way.
every kind of technique that you could want to integrate into a sock. Lace, cables, texture, color work. They have patterns that fit that brief.
And so this would be a really good resource if you're looking for variety, expanding your horizon, or if you're like really good at making vanilla socks,
Yep.
stockinette socks, simple socks, and you want something flashy to sort of spark a little extra interest in your practice, this would be a great inspiration because you can technically just like browse the book,
Yeah.
find a technique that you've never done before, and do that in a pair of
Yeah.
socks. Super accessible, and if you hate it, you stop.
Exactly. What's really great too about these books is that they're so like varied that I have never once felt like I have to knit every pair.
No.
Like I've been able to look through and be like, this all over colorwork sock, the Hollingbourne socks, they're beautiful. I have no desire to knit a pair of all over colorwork socks, but I can appreciate
How beautiful
how
it is.
beautiful it is.
And the clever construction.
I can read all of the notes and learn about how the designer has set up this all over colorwork sock and be like, oh, okay, well maybe I should go up a needle size if I'm doing color work, and like take some of those techniques and apply them to other projects going forward. There's just so many beautiful things in here.
My favorite yoga socks.
So I have a question for both of you.
Oh, here are the Vervain ones that we talked about earlier.
The
We did
Vervain
these.
of my existence.
The Vervain one.
We did these as a cow.
We did.
In April of 2022, and I finished them in November of 2022.
Mine, unfortunately, don't fit me.
Oh my gosh.
Tiny for me.
I made a pair. I gifted them to my mom. She wore them twice. They got caught in the pant leg, in one of her pant legs, and they ended up in the dryer by accident. No. And she felted them, and they shrunk, and she was beside herself when she gave them back to me. But then I gifted them to a coworker's 7-year-old daughter, and
They fit her.
She loves them. So they took on a new life.
So,
But yeah.
after having made these many socks and have had positive and negative experiences, Ali, what would you say to a person that's never knit a sock and that is a little bit cautious of making their first pair?
I would say that you don't have to wear what you make.
Ooh!
Yeah,
I would
that's
say-
true.
Take.
I would say that you should cast on a pair, be it, well, if it's your first pair, maybe try with DK weight because it's a little bit more
Easier, yeah.
easier to like see your stitches and to get the feel for the techniques in a shorter time frame.
Yeah.
Because you're not knitting like 80 rows of fingering weight leg. But if at the end of it, it looks wonky, you don't have to wear it. You can undo it. You can put it on your wall to look at later. I mean, the first mitten I ever made looked like a shark because I didn't have like a proper thumb. I just had this weird little bump where the thumb should go.
A pointy fin on
Like it looked like a fin. And so obviously I didn't wear the mitten, but I kept it while I was making the second one, which did have a proper thumb. And then once I figured out how to do it, I unraveled the first one and I fixed it. So you don't have to keep it. You don't have to make two. You don't have to wear them. Just give it a try. Because if you don't that's not the right word. If you don't give it a try and at least attempt to understand the construction, you're never going to get off your butt and make a pair of socks. You're just going to stare at the yarn in terror because what what's the worst that can happen if you end up with an ill-fitting, awkwardly shaped sock?
It's really, I feel like for a lot of
You don't
people,
put it
it's
on.
that fear of like not having a finished garment or not having something they can wear. But at the end of the day, when you started knitting, that was the fear.
Yep.
In the first place, right? So it's the same thing just for socks now. But at the end of the day, like you said, like you don't have to make it work. Like as long as you're trying, and worst comes to worst, maybe try to make it a gift for a loved one you know would appreciate it, even if it's not perfect, right? So just for that extra motivation. But for me, it's the opposite. It's usually like I knit it for myself first so that I get better, and then I knit for like the same pattern but for somebody else. But yeah.
If you have made mitts, you can make socks. If you have made socks, you can make mitts. They are fundamentally
Yeah, they're
the
very
same
similar.
techniques.
Yeah.
So if the only thing that's keeping you from knitting a pair of socks is that you haven't done it before, but you've made every other kind of thing, if you've shaped the crown of a hat, if you've done the yoke of a sweater, you can do it.
Yeah.
You have, because it's literally just, hold on, let me grab this pair. Let's see. So I have
It's a tube.
cast on, I have knits and purls, I have knits, I have putting stitches on hold to do the heel flap,
Easy.
more knits and purls,
Decreases.
I have some decreases, so knit 2 together and slip slip knit in the heel turn. I have picked up stitches here, decreases again, slip slip knit and knit 2 together for the gusset,
And then more stockinette.
more stockinette, and then once again, same
Decreases.
thing, decreases, slip slip knit and knit 2 together for the toe. That's it. Those
Yeah.
are the stitches. Knit, purl, slip slip knit, knit 2 together.
That's it.
That's all.
And at the end of the day,
That's it.
when you think about it, it's just knitting, whether it's socks or any type of knitting, it really comes down to just learning how, like, if you know how to purl and how to knit,
Yep.
everything else is, you
Yeah.
know.
And if one of the things that's kind of keeping you from doing it is that you don't want them to look bad, well, maybe get a fun yarn. So this is a yarn that's self-striping. It's dyed to give me stripes of even width. I didn't change colors. I just worked from the ball, and it's just one piece of yarn the whole way through that just changes colors.
And it looks like you did a lot of work.
It looks like I did a lot of work. I didn't. I did so little work in comparison. Maybe that's it. Maybe you just need an extra little motivator, a fun colored yarn,
Yeah. Or just yarn that you want to work with.
or yarn that you
really.
want to work with.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah, please.
I think it's also okay to say, I'm not going to try knitting socks. I'm not interested in knitting socks. I tried making one sock and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
and,
fair.
And if that's you, there is absolutely no reason anyone can convince you otherwise.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
your experience. That's, like, you are the best person to determine what you like. And
boss
if
of your
you
own knitting.
tried it and you didn't like it, that's enough information.
And sometimes you don't even have to try it. I don't want to do blankets. I never have. Like, I've never been interested in doing blankets. I'm never going to knit a blanket in my life. I'm not interested. Other people, that's all they do, or they love doing it.
And they can't believe when you say, like, what do you mean you've been knitting for 7 years and never made a blanket?
I am not. I've made one shawl,
Yeah.
and that's it.
You don't
In
have
7
to.
years.
And you don't have to. And
But
it-
you've tried it.
I've tried it.
Yeah. But I feel like when it comes to knitting socks, it's such a quintessential handmade item
Yeah.
that there is a little bit of shame out there, as in, like, oh my god, you've never made a sock? What is it to you, Narc?
Exactly.
Maybe
Like-
I don't want to.
But not
Love it.
wanting to and being afraid of trying
Are
are
two different
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully some of those experiences have helped you decide whether or not you want to give it a shot.
Because after I have knit so many socks. After the like third or fourth pair, I stopped thinking about what I was doing.
Yeah, it's
Because
muscle
at
memory.
that point, it's muscle memory. Because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And with time, maybe sure you want to put a fun texture stitch on the top of your sock. But by that point, it's still the same setup of you cast on, you do your ribbing, you do the leg, you do the heel, you do the foot, you do the toe with a little bit of spice in the front. But by that point, you've already mastered the rest of it. So this is only the new part.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of overwhelming, but it can also be really rewarding.
Yeah.
Ali, you want to close us out?
Yes, socks are great. That's it.
Try them.
If you want to make them.
And if you don't want to, don't.
That's okay.
It's all good. But
Thank
thank you
you.
for watching our Pearls of Wisdom. We'll see you next time.
Bye.